How are you, Steve?
Hey Edward, really good mate, really good.
Good,
Many
good.
thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Thank you for coming on.
No, it's good to see you. It's good to see you trying to get the truth out there, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
uh,
trying.
it's important. We need more people doing it.
Yeah, that's the plan. Quickly, Steve, for people who've not been on your website and maybe not, heard of you before, um, on this podcast we're going to be talking about the banking systems and maybe other alternatives that are a little bit safer and things that people may not have heard about before. How did you discover that there was a problem with the banking systems, and who planted the seed with you? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, it was an event really, more than a person. Although I did spend 21 years as a high-paid slave in the rat race, making six-figure salaries and really, yeah, doing well, but still wondering around me, how were these people moving into these huge houses and driving Porsches and whatever. And when the banks went bump in 2008, it was like for a few years I've been dialing into some guy who was kind of talking about banking and talking about having different pillars of wealth, and so I was kind of fairly. I thought I was fairly awake, and then I saw like Northern Rock collapsing and other banks collapsing in 2008, and I saw people who'd saved money all their lives, like destitute.
Yeah.
Pensions were robbed, and then I hear the government, now the taxpayer is bailing out the bank with 87 billion or however much done, and I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't ring right, this.
No.
Something just doesn't ring right, that I'm bailing out a bank. And then I start to see that no bank has really got prosecuted. And I'm thinking, how can that happen?
Yeah.
How can so many lives be devastated and nobody's accountable for it?
Well, apart from the taxpayers, the guys who've done nothing, apart from trusted,
Yeah, and it was like, wow. It was just a wow moment, and I thought, like, these people are protected, they're looked after, and then as time went on, I started to circumstances happened in my life that enabled me. Whereas, if the truth been on, I'd have never ever have probably had the balls to walk away from 150 grand salary plus the same again in bonus, no chance. But some sad events in my own life with my mum led me to just walking away and quitting.
Yeah.
With no income, no pension, a little bit of savings, and it changed my life because all of a sudden I had time to think. And when I was thinking, I was then thinking, and I was then researching.
100%.
And I was looking at. I went down so many rabbit holes, but the first one I went down was banking, and started to understand fractional reserve lending, where like, your bank takes in your money as 100 quid, and then actually lends out 900 or 1,000 quid based on that 100. So what that then told me was, well, if we all went to get our money out of the bank at the same time,
not a chance. Not a chance.
We've got no money.
No, 100%. That's it. But it's like with mortgages as well. When you're putting a deposit down on a mortgage, you are creating the funds of the money they're lending you. You're the money you're putting into the bank is allowing them to lend you. Basically, you're lending yourself the money. All they're doing is typing it into a computer screen and going, nice one, now you owe us this much. You know what I mean? Madness.
Absolutely. It is money on a screen.
What is it? I think I read, I don't know if it's how correct it is, but something like 6 or 8% of money in the world is only cash. The rest, it's all on a computer screen. Yeah.
And they're driving it the way that they actually see. When cash is abolished, people think that, if we get rid of cash, it's great because, that's what terrorists use, that's what drug dealers use, that's what this, that and the other uses. Well, ultimately, that's not really true. The truth is, once we get rid of cash, we are total slaves.
100%, yeah.
That's the truth, because if you are on a computer screen somewhere and you are a naughty boy, all of a sudden, and people will be saying, "Well, I'm not a naughty boy," but who defines the law, and what laws could change in future to we've seen how crazy America is with stupid laws and things you can and can't do. So whoever writes the laws and whoever has a switch on your money,
100%. You're in the shop. It's happened when, if you've been in the shop and you've gone to pay on your card and their machine's not worked. You know what I mean? Never mind your own card. And then what do you do? Well, when you can't pay in cash anymore, and it's like, bloody hell, what do you do? It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, you're screwed, mate. But there's been some quite important points. It's like there's a bit of a story to this after 2008, because it actually gets worse, and this is what people really need to know. And everything I'm going to say, I like to think that I only ever speak what I believe to be the absolute truth that can be substantiated with hard facts.
Yeah.
And what happened something happened in Cyprus in 2013. So after the 2008 crash, the banking crisis and whatever, and countries went bust. We saw what happened to Iceland and various banks. In 2013, something happened in Cyprus, whereas the same thing happened there. Now, we had Greece slightly before that, and we saw all the bad things going on in Greece. But then in Cyprus, the banks started to go bust, and what happened was something very different. It wasn't the government of Cyprus that came in and bailed out these banks. What happened was the banks went into every depositor's account and literally stole money to actually bail out the bank. So that's quite a scary scenario.
Yeah.
But it's even more gets scarier than that, because Cyprus was a test run for the rest of the G20 countries. So what happened then in Sydney in 2014 at the G20 summit, the bank bail-in in Cyprus was declared a success.
Right.
And the person speaking, whose name I just can't remember, actually said, well, it must come as a total surprise to the people next time. Now, so the legislation's changed. So anybody who lives in a G20 country, if you deposit money with your bank, you are classed as a creditor.
Yeah, well, that's so. The law indicates that as soon as you put money into a bank, that money doesn't belong to you anymore legally.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that until maybe a year ago, and I was like, you what? If you put your money into you're basically saying you have it, you look after it for me. But if you don't look after it properly and you lose it, there's fuck all I can do. Do you know what I mean? It's gone.
Yeah. But there's another kind of thing here as well. When people say, yeah, but I'm covered for £75,000 in my bank, I'm covered for I think it was £85,000. We'll deal in pounds, but in America you've got the FDIC, who are supposed to cover you for such an amount, and in England it's the FCIS or something like that.
Yeah.
So financial services compensation scheme, something like that, and they say you're covered for like £75,000 or £85,000. Well, that's actually a total lie.
Right, okay.
And the reason that it's a total lie is because as a creditor to the bank, you come behind or after the toxic debt and derivatives.
Right.
So basically, all the toxic debt and derivatives is prioritized over you, the depositor, in the event of, a collapse or the bank becoming insolvent or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to steal money out of your account to pay for toxic debt and derivatives.
What are they, Steve? Explain those for people who might not understand what they are.
Okay. What the banks do in 2008, the reason the crisis happened, what the banks were doing is that they were wrapping toxic debt up bundling it all together.
And what were they doing?
And then they were selling it
as bonds, as shit
bonds.
Yeah,
shit bonds and to the market. And I mean, it was just like horrific. But nothing's really changed.
Right.
Okay, nothing has really changed. In fact, as we're talking today, like the bubble is say 10 or 15 times bigger than it was in 2008.
Yeah.
And at the moment, you've got a lot of money printing going on to keep this thing going and keep it, just keep it ticking over.
Yeah.
But when they feel like it, people will think, oh, this is a shock. No, they know exactly. The elite people who run this planet know what's happening, and when they're ready,
they start withdrawing. They start selling their stocks. They start, they sell their stocks. Boom, it goes boom, and then they buy them back at half the price they sold them for. It's happened time and time again. But unfortunately, the average person, we think stocks and shares and bonds and that, it goes over our head. But it's always happening, isn't it?
It's cyclical, mate. I mean, you can really look through history and see these boom and busts, happen.
What was the original Rothschild, was it Amsel Meyer? He first got his money. He was lending money to both sides of the war. Now during the Napoleonic Wars, he funded England and he funded France, right? So whoever wins, everyone's got to pay him back, even if you win or lose. Do you know what I mean? You're still paying the guy back. But what he did is he went and watched the war, right? And he knew that England won. But he thought, if he tells, before, no one else could get back to England, you see. There was some kind of storm to cross the channel, and he ended up paying some like peasant bloke, cause no one would sail him across. And he knew if he got back first with the, didn't have telephones. If he got back with the news first, if you control the information, you control what people do with it. And he paid this guy, I think it was the equivalent today of like 100 grand, just to, to row him, to sail him across the channel. And he went back, and on the stocks and shares market in England, he said, look, France have won it. So people are panicking, they're selling all the stocks, they're selling this, they're doing that. Then so he's got everyone working for him, because he can't buy them himself, because you'll be going, hang about, why is he buying these? So he's got people working for him, buying them all up. The next day, they come across and they tell the truth. England have won. You know what I mean? And he's buying them all, you know what I mean? He's selling them, at daft prices. He's bought them for cheap because people were panicking, and he's selling. And it's never changed from then up until 2008 in Wall Street and all that. Nothing's changed. You know what I mean? It's the same trick.
Yeah, same trick, different day. But I think, like, when you look at central banking and you look at fractional reserve lending, if people haven't twigged it yet, we really are in a debt society. And it doesn't matter whether you're, the people who will be least affected by all this are the people who live week to week, month to month, right?
Which is a lot of people, Steve, isn't it? A lot of people.
Well, they're going to be lucky. Yeah. They're going to be lucky, mate. Yeah. Because all this crap that's going to go on, right? The people who are really going to suffer are the people who save money, the people who are saving for the kids, the people who are like, doing reasonably well for themselves. They're invested in the stock market, they've got a few quid in the bank, and maybe, the upper echelons of middle class. They're the people who are going to suffer massively, because the reason that these events happen is to transfer wealth 100%. from the people to the elite 1%, right? That's the design of it.
Well, so the only people that made money in the 2008 crash were the bankers, weren't they?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's madness, isn't it? It's madness how they can get away with it.
But I don't think people don't have to be victims, though. And this is kind of, as I've gone through this journey, and really the reality that we live, everything, it's almost like everything to be true is actually false. That's what I've discovered on my journey, and I'm talking about a wide range of things here. But you know what? people don't have to be victims. They don't have to just sit back and accept what's going to happen to them, whether that's with health or whether that's with wealth.
I think the thing to do is educate yourself. You know what I mean? Because if you don't educate yourself, you will become educated. Someone will educate you for you. You know what I mean? And I think you said before about having time on your hands. You had a bit of time on your hands, and you started researching, educating yourself, finding things interesting. And that's exactly what I did. When I came into my job, I'm working 4 days a month. I'm sat on my arse for the rest. And before it, I was out every day working for peanuts. So I started reading. Never read a book in my life. You know what I mean? Even through school, I read the last 3 pages of Lord of the Flies to pass me. You know what I mean? To pass me test. And now I love it. I love it because I love discovering new things. I love, you know what I mean? I love knowing what's going on. You know what I mean? And a lot of people will turn around and they'll say, "How do you know? How do you know? You're just reading a book. It's the same as you know what I mean?" But it's not. The facts are there. The truth's there. It's not just me. There's a lot of people saying exactly the same things. The proof's in the pudding. Look at Edward Snowden, Julian Assange. These guys, if they were talking shit, why are they trying to arrest them? Why are they locked up hiding? You know what I mean? It's there.
Do you know what happens though, dude? And you've got to have a bit of there's a lot of people. It's like I look at my Facebook friends, right, and I know for a fact, numbers wise, it's like I have a little group called the Free Thinking Community, and there's probably 10% of my friends in there, right. So that tells me 10% of them are awake. Yeah. But you know what? I know there's another 10% at least, right, who sit in silence, who wouldn't want to be ridiculed, who wouldn't want to be laughed at, or who simply wouldn't want to be questioned on the fact that they don't think the world is actually as the TV, the newspapers portrays it to us. But because you got to, if you do what you're doing and you research, we are one of the few people who actually research and tune into this type of stuff. So people are going to point at you and laugh at you. 100%. And unless you've got that little bit of courage and conviction about yourself, I don't give 2 shits what you think.
It takes a lot of courage to be, you know what I mean, to stand up and say something that you actually believe and be called a weirdo, you know what I mean? You're a crazy person and all that. And sometimes I think, fucking hell, shall I just knock it on the head? Shall I just go back to my old life and do what I'm told and read the newspapers that, the guys who own the media, there's a small handful of guys that own every, newspapers and the TV. They've all got interests in oil. They've all got interests in banking system. You know what I mean? They've all got interest in selling weapons. So the things that they're going to be writing about in their newspapers or putting on the news on the telly is going to be in their interest. They're going to be trying to create wars. Because fucking hell, I'll get rich from it, won't I? Do you know what I mean? And
absolutely, mate. And Big Pharma, by the way, Big Pharma are the biggest funders of media altogether, 100%. News channels and newspapers. Yep. So, and a little interesting story is I remember Noel Edmonds going on this morning TV after he cured himself from cancer. Right, and he cured himself using alternative methods, and they absolutely ruined him. Ollie Willoughby and Philip Schofield absolutely ruined him. They ridiculed him, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what happens when somebody steps outside the paradigm of chemotherapy, radiation, and whatever, and does something for themselves. You're gonna come on and you're gonna get laughed at, and it just showed me the power of the media. 100%. You know what I mean? Because
do you remember David Icke when he went on, was it Teddy Wogan's show? When was this, in the 90s? And, he's laughing, he's got the audience laughing at him, he's calling him this and that. The guy's a weirdo. You don't believe in that, do you, David, and all that? If you look at from then to now, the stuff he's saying has all come true. Now,
The guy's a legend.
Yeah. Now, the guy's either done his research or he's a psychic, and I think I know which one I think it is. The guy knows his shit, you know what I mean?
Anyone who can predict events 20, 25 years ahead of time,
Yeah.
and they're actually coming true today, right? The people who laugh at David Icke are the people who should be laughed at, because
Oh yeah.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
they should be ridiculed, because if it's impossible to do that. And these are not ordinary predictions. These are predictions. You're talking about. He was predicting paedophilia and talking about Edward Heath, our Prime Minister, killing and raping boys 25 years ago.
Well, what was the other kid?
It's true.
It's like with Jimmy Savile. Do you know Johnny Rotten? You know, is it Sex Pistols? He come out years ago, right, to the BBC. And he, at the time, he was a very powerful, high-figure guy. He come out and said, "Listen, Jimmy Savile." Everyone knew Jimmy Savile's up to this. He's doing this. He's doing that. They banned him from the BBC for 2 years. You know what I mean? And kind of wrote him off. Don't come round here again, spreading that bullshit. You know what I mean? They are protecting these people. Well, that's another. I'm going to do a whole podcast on that. That's another one. But anyway, going back to the banking, you said before. Now, you know what I mean. I know, but for people who are watching, who is the debt owed to? Right. So let's say, for example, you know, in England or America or wherever it is, they've got a national debt. Now, who is that debt? Who's it owed to?
Well, national debt's owed to the Rothschilds, ultimately. They're the people at the top of the tree. And you've got some banking families that are around them, like, you know, the Warburgs,
the Bayers, the JP Morgans, the Rockefellers. Yeah. But I fucking, you know what I mean? I've spent years looking into this. They all work for the Rothschilds. You know what I mean? The Rothschilds can't turn them around and go, "We're the big boys," because everyone will go, "Hang about. These guys are fucking controlling the world." You spread out you know what I mean? If you've got guys working for you, I think when JP Morgan died, the original Chase Bank guy, they were expecting him to have millions and millions in the bank, and he had I think he left like 16 million, something like, you know, I can't remember the figure, but it was like, fucking hell, where's his money? Because it wasn't his money, you know what I mean? It was Rothschild money. You know, and people started...
It's tricky. And the other thing is with these, when that debt, that debt is fictitious debt. And you know something, there's a few things that I think people need to know. I mean, we're going to explain some solutions probably the next time, right? Yeah. And there are solutions. We don't have to be victims, okay? It's very, very easy to protect yourself from what's coming and the collapse. But I think people in debt, you know, it causes a lot of bad health and stuff. And, you know, there's just a really easy website that people can go to called getoutofdebtfree.org. Yeah. And people can go there, and you know, if you're in debt, you've got credit card issues, you're just worried, right?
It makes you ill. It'll make you ill. The stress of it will make you physically ill. And
you can just go
over money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and go there and just get out of debtfree.org. Yeah. Go there, and you'll get your debt wrote off for free, for nothing, right? And don't worry about it, because ultimately, you know, there's a funny thing that when you've got a credit card, you've got a bank loan or whatever, do you know they can't actually prove, or they can't provide the paperwork that proves that you actually owe the debt? That's how crazy this is.
I've heard of a story, right, in America, and I think it was a few years ago, where a guy couldn't keep up payments on his mortgage, right? Now, he said... Now, the bank were kind of saying, you know, they threatened nobody has ever been to prison for not paying a debt. That's a fact, have they? Now, but they'll send the bailiffs round. They'll bully you. They'll intimidate you. You know what I mean? If you did it to them, you'd get arrested for, you know what I mean, sending people around to punch their heads in. But if they do it to you, it's legal. You know what I mean? The system works for those who work for the system. So this guy basically in America, he couldn't prove... He couldn't pay his mortgage. He couldn't keep up with the payments for whatever reason. Now they said, "Listen, we're going to take your house off you, you know, for not paying us the money that you owe us." So we turned round to him and went, "Prove to me that the money you lent me that it exists, right? Because I can't owe you something that doesn't exist. You know, if you've made something up in your head and it doesn't physically exist, I can't owe it you. Yeah, because if they've made this these numbers up on a computer, I'll just send you a few numbers on a computer. But they want physical cash. They make up their false money and they take your real bullshit money. But you know what I mean, paper money. And this guy said, listen, take me to court, prove to me that the money I owe you exists. And they couldn't, because it doesn't exist. It was a number typed into a computer screen. That was the end of it. No news coverage, no media coverage, because as soon as they find out, you know what I mean, as soon as that gets out there, that hang about, it's all bullshit. This money, these credit cards that I owe, it's bullshit. You know what I mean? I've never, you know, I believe if you can't afford it, don't have it. You know, I've never had credit cards or nothing, but you know, it makes people ill, doesn't it? I know people who are sick to the stomach because they're always worrying, and then they're getting threatened by bailiffs, they're getting threatened by other, you know what I mean? And shit, I need to pay, you know, and it makes you sick.
Well, we can do a whole another.
Yeah. I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will as well.
I've got a great friend actually who can show people how to take control of the sovereignty, which actually means that you are below God and above the crown and corporations.
Yeah.
So
it's to do with fictional entities, isn't it, and all that. You know, your birth certificate, when you sign that, you're basically handing over your rights. The state owns you, kind of thing. Yeah, but we'll do another one on that. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting.
Mate, there's a lot to know. But going back to to try and help people understand what's going on in the world, and especially in banking and finance, because you know ultimately you need money to live, money to survive, and it's a real cruel blow when it's cruel enough blow if you ever go on the stock market and you know the shares that you pick or whatever, you know, they fail. That's a cruel blow. But when actually you're going to be really devastated by a big banking collapse, it doesn't happen to everyone. But when it happens, it's bad. So people to tune into, and people who really help to wake me up and help to set me down the path, were people like there's a guy called, and you can just YouTube these guys, a guy called the Dollar Vigilante. Right. Jeff Berwick comes out with some brilliant content. You'd never go and do business there because it's expensive, because he's an expert, but great info. Another guy who's a real genius, a guy called Mike Maloney of goldandsilver.com. Again, the guy just knows his stuff.
Educated, proper educated.
Really is. But again, quite expensive to deal with because that's what experts are.
What will they do? They're basically selling you information, how to do this, how to do that.
The information is pretty much free, to be honest with you. If you just go on YouTube, you get all the information and all the stuff free, but they're sending you down a particular path. They're sending you down a path of real tangible assets that have stood the test of time, like gold and silver, and new cryptocurrencies. But the thing is, they sell gold and silver too. Right now, so just one example. You know, we'll share the solutions next time round. But you know, I was almost on the verge of opening an offshore precious metals account with the Dollar Vigilante, and I had a broker. He put me onto one of his broker guys. I'd sent the guy $500 as a kind of a retainer. He sent me the paperwork. I started filling it in. I was on the verge of sending this other $2,000, and I met who's now a really good friend of mine, an ex-banker from the City of London, and he really left because he knew how corrupt the system was, and he knew it was rigged in favour of the rich. And not in favor, you know, and really not to do anything for the poor. And he started just showing me a few things and explaining a few things to me, and it was like, wow, I actually ended up with a free offshore account that cost me no money, and the money I was going to pay this broker, I actually used to buy myself some metals.
Some precious metal,
So, you know, and I thought, wow, how fantastic. And
why,
so,
for people who don't understand, why precious metals? What is, obviously, they've stood the test of time. Can you touch up on that a little bit of?
Well, yeah.
Of why people, if people are looking to, invest in these things, why would it be a good idea to do it?
Well, if you speak to people like there's famous people out there like Robert Kiyosaki, the other guy Tony Robbins is a bit more of a modern day guy. Yeah. They will always say to you, if you go to any of their seminars, which you'll pay thousands to do.
Oh, is it a fortune, aren't they, that Tony Robbins?
Yeah. They'll say to you, you need to have 10% of your net worth in precious metals, gold, silver, and more recently they're talking about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, right? Because that's the new digital gold, so to speak. But the reason they say that is because throughout the ages and throughout time, really gold and silver are the only commodities, the only spendable, they call it God's money.
Yeah.
Because an ounce of silver or an ounce of gold in Roman times bought you a toga, a tunic, and it got you kitted out with some pretty swanky togs, right?
Yeah.
In the 1920s, it did exactly the same.
An ounce of gold is worth a nice suit or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and today an ounce of gold will do exactly the same.
So it's retained its value, hasn't it? It's retained its value. Yeah.
But the problem is, when they say, "Oh, gold's gone up, gold's gone down," you're comparing it to fictitious paper crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's gone down it might have gone down to the paper. It's always going to go back up to the paper. That's how the game works. But
you've still got your gold. You've still got your gold in your hand, and you can still. And the thing with the word gold's actually classed as an asset like property. Yeah. But where it's slightly different is, you can't sell. If you need to raise some cash, let's say you just get, you fall on hard times, you can't go and sell a little corner of your house. But you can go and sell a gram or an ounce of your gold.
Exactly, yeah.
In bits. So there's a lot to be said for it, but I didn't really understand this till I started tuning into these people. I started to really realise, I'd heard it years ago from Kiyosaki and Tony Robbins, but I thought, for me today, the way I operate today, I have absolute minimal money in my bank to literally pay any direct debits that I might have.
Yeah. Because people who are watching might be going, what's he trying? He's not saying shut your bank account down, is it? You know what I mean? You're not saying that at all. You're saying don't store money in it. You know what I mean? Don't save your money in it, because there is gonna, you know what I mean? There's a bubble that's about to burst, isn't there? And it's gone. Your money's gone. What were you saying about NatWest as well before?
Well,
you mentioned to me about NatWest being not part of the fractional reserve system. Is that right?
No, not NatWest. No, NatWest.
Oh, not NatWest. Nationwide. Sorry.
Nationwide,
yeah. Fuck NatWest.
Yeah, absolutely. NatWest, they're owned by the Royal Bank of Scotland, and they're probably in more debt than anyone. So, in fact, people couldn't get into the NatWest accounts last week. So, don't go with NatWest.
No. Nationwide, but that's English, innit? That's in England, that, isn't it?
The Nationwide Building Society, right, is one of the only independent building societies left. They don't engage in this fractional reserve lending. So what that basically means is...
So they only lend out what they've got.
And they still have a board. Who and they're privately owned, right? Yeah. Whereas you go to another building society, they pretty much were all bought up after the 2008 crisis, right, by the big banks.
Yeah.
So
the big banks are also privately owned, aren't they?
Oh, well, they are privately owned,
yeah. But not
by Rothschild and whoever else.
Yeah.
But there's a difference, because they're the ones who are going to come in and steal your money. Yeah. It's those high street brands, your Lloyd's TSB, your NatWest, your Bradford and Bingleys,
Halifax is
Royal Bank of Scotland, Halifax, Bank of Scotland. Jesus, mate. Anything on that, Santander.
They're all part of this.
these are all gonna just steal people's money at some point over the next, whenever this bubble bursts, and it could be next week, it could be next year. It isn't going to go longer than 18 months. Right. It's probably impossible for it to do that, but it's probably sooner rather than later. But when the bank gets in trouble, that's when you're in trouble. So it's as simple as, one simple thing you can do today, and I've told all the people I care about, the people, my best mates, my family, simply reduce what you've got in your bank to a low figure. If you're saving for your kids in your bank or whatever, get it into the Nationwide Building Society. I'm not saying it's bulletproof, because I truly don't know what is bulletproof banking wise, but I know the Nationwide are not engaged in the same practices as the rest of the high street building societies and banks, right, which is fractional reserve lending. So ultimately, your money's safer there than it is in a normal bank, and that's the best tip I can give today. There's stuff we can do, like there's actually ways that, I'm feeling quite good at the moment, because it's probably one of the few times, since 2008 that I've actually been on the right side of things, and I've actually prepared myself. So when the shit hits the fan and everybody's going to be crying in the beer, I'm actually going to be laughing. Because I've taken steps to. It's the same.
It's the same. Yeah, the people, the people spotted it in 2008, didn't they? A handful of people said, "Fucking hell, what's going on here? It's going to go boom." And they're trying to warn people. The problem is nobody wants warning. You know what I mean?
No, nobody wants.
You're not going to believe. The thing is, the trust is, who do you believe? Some weirdo who's sat in his room educating himself, or a big corporation bank? You know what I mean? And you can understand why they believe the bank, but at the end of the day,
Yeah. But
one of them's got something to take off you, and the other's got nothing to take. The advice we're giving, we're not gaining nothing from it. We're just we want to share this information. Not just on the banking, but on many other subjects that we're going to cover on this show. But we're not gaining nothing from it, are we?
There'll be. But what I found is, especially like I'd sat down and had chats about cancer with lots of people, right? And one thing I found was so many people were so indoctrinated into the mainstream. They even found they couldn't even believe that it would be the case what I was telling them. So, but you know what? If only one person watches this podcast and actually takes action and goes and reduces the bank account, opens a Nationwide account, sticks some money in it. And as this crisis unfolds, they see that the money is actually, it might be devaluing, but at least it's not being stolen from them. We've done a job.
100%. But the thing is, we don't expect people to watch this and go and do it. We expect them to watch this and go and educate themselves.
Research.
Come up with their own idea, and I guarantee, if they do their research, there's only one outcome. There's only one thing that you can come to, the truth. You know what I mean? The same with many other things. When you research it, everyone's got an opinion on something, but they don't want to do the research. When you do the research, there's only one outcome. Being a weirdo, in the case of many. You know what I mean? Oh, he's a weirdo. You know what I mean? But no, amazing. Right, what time are we on there? We're on 30 minutes, so we'll wrap it up. Basically, what is next time. We'll do the solutions. We'll talk about Bitcoin a bit more, gold, where to buy your gold, how to buy your gold, etc., etc. But your website is called. What's your website, Steve?
You can find some information on thehealthandwealthplace.com, and
that talks about not just banking and ways to protect your wealth, but also your health as well, with your diet and your nutrition and things.
You get a lot of information on there about truthful information, information that I've really gone down rabbit holes. It took me years and years to find it. I've thought I've found truth, and then something else, and that's as close to the truth as I've certainly found so far on my journey. Check it out, and
And your YouTube channel is
YouTube is Bitcoin's Captain.
Yeah.
If you just put Bitcoin's Captain into YouTube, yeah, you can find some financial education there about all kinds of things, from insurance to pensions to banking, and there's a lot of stuff by my ex-banker friend on there, which people will just be blown away by the information. They won't believe it's true.
Yeah.
What it is.
Yeah. Amazing. Right, Steve, thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure, mate.
I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
Next time.
Nice little chat.
Yeah, man. Sure.
Nice one, Steve.
See you soon, man.
See you later. Bye-bye.